Right, we're going to reflect on the F1 yesterday, and it was the toughest race of their careers. That's what a number of the drivers said after the Qatar Grand Prix, because they had a real struggle with the heat and humidity in Losail.
Yeah, we can get more on this now with our reporter, Craig Slater, who is in Qatar. Craig, good morning to you. George Russell described it as like driving in an oven. How concerning is it that there were so many that were struggling?
Yes, that's right. The language really stark used by all the drivers today. It's been searingly hot and it was extremely humid last night. You have to say, though, none of this was raised before the Grand Prix. There weren't concerns, and I think the particular characteristics of the race last night was what made the difference. Because there were issues with the tyres, Pirelli mandated 3 pit stops, so short stints with all the cars. That meant the drivers were able to go flat out. It was almost like having 4 sprint races run back to back, so very intense. But yes, Lance Stroll talking about almost passing out at 200 miles an hour. Esteban Ocon vomiting into his helmet. Sorry to raise that image with you at this time in the morning. And yes, Lando Norris saying that drivers fainted in the medical centre in the immediate aftermath. So it is something F1's going to have to look into. They always forensically examine every race, the governing body, the FIA. On the positive front, in terms of this particular race, it moves to a later date in the calendar next season when the temperatures should be much better.
And away from the heat and humidity, Lewis Hamilton has apologised for his first corner crash with Russell. It's not the first time we've seen those two close together on the track, is it? What impact do you think that'll have?
Yeah, I'm not sure we had to see the schmaltzy little video that Mercedes put out with Lewis going in to shake Russell's hand and put an arm around him to show that there were no hard feelings. Lewis, in the immediate aftermath in the car, talked about being taken out by his teammate. After the race, when he had the opportunity to watch the replays, he said he took full responsibility. But it was an interesting collision because the way Mercedes set up their drivers, George Russell was second on the grid, but he was on the medium tyres, which are slower than the tyres Lewis Hamilton had. He was starting third, but on a better side of the track. So it seemed as though the plan was for Lewis to launch past both Russell and Verstappen and take the lead. So it's not so outlandish where he found himself. What Russell was to do exactly, it's hard to see him doing anything other than he did. Did Lewis just misjudge it a little bit and slightly turn in on his teammate? I think that's probably what happened and why he admitted that it was his fault. But these kind of things are okay when you're not challenging for the championship. If Mercedes have a competitive car, then that proximity of racing and the likelihood for collisions can be, well, much more of a problem for the team dynamic.
McLaren benefited from the Mercedes crash, but what about the dynamic between their drivers now battling at the front?
Well, it's a nice problem to have for McLaren. And incidentally, we did make a lot yesterday of Oscar Piastri, who finished second, only being 5 seconds behind Max Verstappen. That was partly to do with the fact that we had the 3 pit stops and the 4 stints, and the Red Bull car of Verstappen didn't get its chance to exert its superiority the way it normally does, which is running very strong on longer stints. So that was kind of taken away. But what a start to F1 Oscar Piastri has had. He won the sprint race here. He was kept ahead via team order of Lando Norris yesterday, which Norris rather quizzically asked why that was the case. And this is Piastri racing on terms with Lando Norris far quicker than anyone expected. And the dynamic there, which makes this interesting, is that Lando's been at McLaren for 5 years. He's very much their poster boy. McLaren want to sign him up for even longer than they already have him, and they've got him to the end of 2025, but others are interested in Norris's services. Alex Albon, who would be well placed to understand the driver market because he's been part of the Red Bull driver program, talked about Red Bull having an open invitation to Lando Norris to come and drive for them. So what do McLaren do? Do they show a little bit of favouritism to Norris to try and keep him on side, to encourage him to think that they are building the team around him? Or are they absolutely scrupulously fair and give Oscar Piastri, who has shown he deserves the chance to fight on equal terms with Norris, to give him that chance. But a stellar start to life in Formula One for Oscar Piastri. Daniel Ricciardo will come back for the next race at AlphaTauri. Is he no longer the principal Australian in F1? I think we have to ask that question now.
Yeah, plenty of talking points as ever. Craig, thank you.